All right, we got one. And there we go, just like that. That's how we wind it in. Yeah, look at that. Welcome to Waypoint Survival. Today, I'm going to show you how to go fishing with the world's smallest pocket fishing kit. Stay tuned. So ever since I demoed how to make this little tiny pocket fishing kit, I've had some questions on my YouTube channel from different viewers about how you would go about using a kit like this so small. Now obviously there's no reel here, and so what this is just a place to keep the fishing line. There's about 100 feet here of fishing line, and so what it's for is to hold it in place. Now once you use this, you're not going to be able to wind it back up on that little spool. It's pretty impossible to do. Also, the sinkers and the hooks, obviously once you take them out and use them, you might be able to store those back in there. But once the fishing line is pulled out, in a survival situation, you're going to have to find a different place to store it. But I'm also going to show you several different ways that you can use this fishing kit if you were actually in a survival situation and you happen to have this with you in your pocket. So let's get to that right now. I'm going to show you 3 different ways that you can use this pocket fishing kit. And so the very first that I'm going to show you is probably the simplest. So the first method that I'm going to show you is just simple hand line fishing. So I've got the sinker on there and the hook threaded on to my line. I've got probably maybe 4 feet of the line out. And all we're going to do is we're going to do some hand fishing into the water. So more or less sometimes called hand jigging. And hand jigging is pretty simple. You just put the line over in the water, let it sink down, and then you just feel for fish. See if you can find any. Just play around a little bit, see if they bite. The method, of course, is pretty simple. We hang on to the excess string with the one hand, and then with the other, we just take the line and we jig it up and down in the water, just like this. So on this side you can see a little better. And I'm literally just playing with the line a little bit and waiting for a small fish. The next method that I'm going to show you is just simple limb line fishing. And in this we take a very specific length of our cord, and look at that. I didn't even have a chance to get it in the water. And I got a bite. All right, so let's try that again. We put it in here, and then what we do is we tie it to a limb. Not a big limb, just a small limb. Doesn't have to hang down real far. And the fish are already biting, I can feel that. So we tie this off, just a simple knot. And what that does is as a fish bites, the limb will bounce up and down. And we'll hopefully get some supper. So here we have it tied off right here, just this little limb. And when a fish is on it, the limb will bob up and down. It needs to be kind of a light limb. And then, of course, down here in the water is our bait and our little sinker. Just drop it back in there and let it do its business. All right, the hook is rebaited and I've already got a little fish on the line. Let's go and check it out. Oh, and it got off. But I had a really good bite, and it was a good sized little fish. Now remember that most of the fish that you catch in a survival situation, it's going to be more like bait. So let's go ahead and bait that hook again. Let's see what happens. I'm just using worms that I dug up from under a log. And these are just very small little red worms that I'm using. And these hooks, as you saw in the other video, are very, very tiny. And that's very important. Alright, I'm going to drop this in the water and you can watch the fish go after it. There it goes. So this is a very effective method of fishing, but you got to be careful. You've got a bunch of little fish around because they will absolutely rob you of your bait. For the third and final method that I'm going to show you, you need to take a small pole. Oh, it's about a little bit longer than my armpit to my fingertips. And using our very small safety pin, split the stick and then slide it into the slit. That will hold it pretty well. You can take some of your dental floss and tie the end of the line off around here if you wish to hold this from slipping out, but if you wedge it in there well, it's going to work pretty good. Just a dead stick whittled with my pocket knife for a float, and then here is our worm, the sinker. Now, on this end of the pole, I used my multi-tool and I drilled a couple of holes and drove 2 pegs in. Now, when we go to wind it, we just wind around the stick like this. So we have to unwind it and cast by hand, and then we wind it in back around the stick, just like this. And you can get an idea about how big it is and how it works. Let's give it a shot. So first of all, we're going to get out about how much line we think we're going to need. And again, if you've done any fishing with a cane pole, this will be very familiar to you. Now, again, in survival, we're not going to have a lot of time to just sit around and mess around with fish. So we have to be very careful. All right, so we've got that out there, about how deep we think it might be, and we're just going to throw it out by hand just like this. All right, and it's floating. Getting down in there where the fish are. Getting some bites. All right. And they cleaned my hook off. So let's try it again. We're going to go back up here under this spot a little bit forward where we know the fish were biting, and we're going to throw it out. All right, we got one. And there we go, just like that. That's how we wind it in. Yeah, look at that. It's a little smallmouth bass. Hooked good and fares too. And that's how you catch fish, with the world's smallest pocket fishing kit. This is James Bender for Waypoint Survival. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. Also make sure and check out the links in the description box below. And while you're down there, make sure and check out the merchandise shelf, which is right below the description box. There, you could purchase Waypoint Survival merchandise, which will help support the channel and all the great research that we do to bring you great content on YouTube. Also, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, please do so. We'd really appreciate it. And when you do subscribe, make sure and press that bell button so that you can stay notified of all of our upcoming videos, and we'll talk to you next time.